Hello, Charlie Enright. It's a great pleasure to have you as our guest this weekend. And the reason, of course, is that you have recently won the ocean race. Congratulations. It's a great achievement. And
very much.
Perhaps not a great surprise. We have seen all the time with these races that the person who makes the best preparations usually wins. And I suppose that can be said about your preparations. This was your third ocean race. You've been doing it before in 2014 and 2017. And this was the real breakthrough. Let's talk about the boats a bit. You have sailed the Volvo 65s before in these two races. Now, the race was in an IMOCA boat. Big difference. Explain pluses and minuses.
Yeah, I mean, a different race for us for a host of reasons. The boats being one of those. Certainly we could not have done what we had done in the past without the existence of the Volvo 65 and the One Design platform. And it was great for a team that was kind of just cutting their teeth and getting into the game, and a lot of the decisions are made for you. And the IMOCA is the exact opposite. I mean, you have to decide on every single detail, of the boat's design and construction. And, it's a big step, not only because it's a custom one-off construction project versus the One Design, but I mean, the boats from a performance standpoint with the foils and, less restrictions and a much wider box rule, everything's really to play for. And, it was a big step for us, but one that we were excited about because we felt like, we were at a place in our personal progression where we were ready to take on a new challenge.
And you had some experience with the IMOCA because you did the Transat Jacques Vabre a few years ago, and that was probably your introduction to the IMOCA.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got interested in the IMOCA because the ocean race chose that as the platform of the future. And, when they made that decision, we kind of jumped right in. And that was a very new experience for me personally and for the rest of the team, for a host of reasons. New boat, shorthanded, foils, autopilot, so, we talk about the preparation. Yes, we are definitely the team that set out to do this race and announced our intention before a lot of other folks, but, new to the IMOCA class. And, this French culture, no matter when you declare your intention for the ocean race, had like a 20-year head start in the, in the platform and the form of sailing and a lot of things that, make this race, or at least this edition, what it is.
Do you think that the IMOCA class is an improvement over the Volvo 65s for the purpose?
I do personally, because the Volvo 65s were launched in 2013. They were designed in 2012. It's 10 years old. And, they're great boats. I mean, we've seen them break the 24-hour record. We've seen them, get faster and faster with every edition to the race. But, the ocean race is, and in my opinion, always will be, kind of the pinnacle event for crewed offshore sailing. And, the platform, the event, it needs to continue to grow. And the IMOCA seems like a logical step because you already have this fleet of 40 some odd boats. And we've proven that, a boat that can be sailed single-handed around the world can also be sailed with a crew. Yeah. And, now you have this entire fleet capable of competing in this race moving forward, which I think is great.
Well, I mean, you look at the latest Fastnet race. I think there were 29 IMOCAs in the race, and it was a brand new boat, the Massif, was the fastest boat and beating even Rambler 88, which was a great achievement. And then when you look at the ocean race, you were 5 boats, and 4 of them were new, and the 5th were an old Vendée Globe boat. And occasionally they could keep up, but you know, obviously that boat didn't measure up for the regatta.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the potential of these boats, you know, particularly the newest generation, is still very untapped. You know, I think, you know, we just saw Massif win a 29 boat Fastnet race, and it's only been in the water for 3 or 4 weeks. I think we saw the boat perform well, sure, but I think we also saw Charlie and Pascal, you know, sail a really amazing race, you know, especially toward the end. In the beginning with a new platform, it was just kind of getting it through the weather, I'd imagine. And then, you know, when they had conditions that they felt more comfortable pushing the boat in, you know, they attacked. At the end, it looked like they just kind of wanted it more. They refused to lose and got a little bit of leverage here and a little bit of leverage there. But, you know, obviously a strong performance for the boat. But I think, you know, all credit to the sailors as well. And I think the performance that we'll see out of that boat in the future will, you know, very much exceed what we saw this past week.
Do you think that the 5-boat fleet in this ocean race is a breakthrough for IMOCA in a crewed round the world race, that you will see many more boats next time?
Yeah, no, I do. I think this was a transition edition of the race for sure. And I think there were skeptics out there. And, you know, I think a lot of things changed. The race that we sailed wasn't the race that certainly the organizers had originally envisioned, you know, in terms of number of crew on board, the course, you know, number of stopovers, location of those stopovers, autopilot specifics. So, I mean, I think over time, the organization and the class realized that they had to align a bit more on their vision and kind of bring everything together to get the entries that are required to have a competitive race. In the end, I think everybody would agree we had an extremely competitive race, you know, with a number of good teams. But I think in the future, there will be even more. I mean, just some of the people that participated on our team toward the end of the race weren't necessarily people that would have signed up, whatever it was, you know, a year earlier, 9 months earlier, until they saw the product on the water and realized that, hey, you know, this is going to help my campaign here moving forward, because the level is high. The boats are being pushed like they've never been pushed before. And I think there's a lot of, you know, what we call FOMO. There's people in Brittany wishing that they had a piece of this, you know, for preparing their own individual IMOCA campaigns moving forward.
There were 2 things that struck me as well. The closeness of the racing. I mean, there were only hours between the first and the second and third boat at almost every port. And also the communication from the boats with the drones and you know, onboard pictures, I think was excellent. It can perhaps be improved even further, but it was a great thing for the race. How did it work, you think, with the number of crew that you had on the boat? Was it too many, or could you have fewer, or?
Oh, I think it was a great number. You can kind of end up with 2 washes of 2, you know, 2 people on deck, you know, allows the boat to be pushed at the bare minimum 200% more than it's normally pushed in a single-handed context. You know, you look at the performance numbers from the TJV versus the, you know, route to Rum, and you know, now this is even one step further. So I think it's personally the right number. And, you know, as you pointed out, just the importance of the onboard reporter. You know, you look at the Vendée Globe and it's one guy down below with an iPhone pointed at him, you know, and you look at the content from the ocean race and it's compelling. Certainly when it comes to the role of the onboard reporter. And, you know, I'm biased, but I think we got one of the best in Amory Ross, and just, you know, his writing, his drone work, his photography, his ability to exist on board and get off a quality product every single day. It's a difficult job, but one that brings a lot of return to the sponsor. Obviously, this is a expensive endeavor, and to watch your platform sail over the horizon and not hear from it for the likes of 30 days is a bit unacceptable. But also just the images that it provides the sailing community and how it helps grow our sport. It's just a crucial part of the game now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Boris Herman, he's become a hero in Germany. Do you find yourself in the same position in the US? Are you a household name now in America?
I don't know. Certainly the phone is ringing more than it was in the past, and the inbox is full and all that kind of stuff. But the American sports market is a crowded one. The big four, American football, basketball, hockey, and baseball kind of dominate. But to a lesser degree, sailing, skiing. I mean, there's a golf, tennis, there's all these other sports, that are on the rise in the background. And, I think a result like this, for a country that is looking to restore, I guess, in some ways, its sailing prowess, only helps elevate, the profile of the sport.
Do you think that there could be more American teams next time around?
I hope so. I really do hope so. And, one of our goals as a team is to Americanize the effort when and where we can, not at the sacrifice of competition and a good result. But, one of the things we want to do is when you go to France, you see there is this pathway, and it's, first this, then that. And the more we can help bring that back to the States, particularly now that, we have the trophy and the blueprint and have proven ourselves on the big stage, hopefully we're successful in implementing something like that locally.
Of course, the environment has a lot to do with the success of the race, and your sponsor is 11th Hour, which is a very strong foundation to promote cleanness in the oceans. I've said to Richard Breezers that this is not only an ocean race, but it's a race for the oceans, and I guess you can confirm that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're very lucky to have a sponsor like 11th Hour Racing, whose ethos, whose values align so perfectly with us and our platform and our sport and our team. And, sustainability was previously a footnote, in this race, and now it's really a headline, and you see every single team rallying around the cause. Some of that I think is the sense of urgency. I mean, even just today, I read that Phoenix, Arizona will have temperatures over 110 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 weeks in a row. I mean, it's hard not, to notice the changes in our weather and our climate, and as a result, the changes in our ocean. So, I mean, I guess, although the news is a bit tragic, I guess the good news is that we're talking about it. The masses are acknowledging, but I mean, for us, it's more about solutions than it is the message these days, because we've been aware and have been shouting from the rooftops for an extended period of time now. But that only does so much. I mean, certainly more minds thinking about how we can solve these problems is better. But we really need to buckle down and come up with solutions, because as we can see from what's going on just this week, all over the world, the situation is quite dire. Yeah.
11th Hour Racing, your sponsor, they're also a major sponsor for the race. Will they stay in the race, and will they stay behind you think, or what are their plans?
To be totally honest, I am not sure. I think there's mutual interest, certainly from our side and from the sponsorship side, to continue down some sort of path. We started discussing, I should say, what that could look like during the race, but then kind of very quickly decided that wasn't the appropriate time, because something like this is a massive undertaking. So to allocate energy toward the future when you have so much to accomplish in the present seemed a bit inefficient, knowing full well that I guess every version of our future is brighter and better if we capitalized on the opportunity that we had right in front of us. So that became the focus, and everything about the future got tabled until after the race. And now, because we were successful, the schedule has filled. I think we all need a little bit of time for reflection to see what kind of the world is going to look like, to talk about what worked in our existing campaign, what could have been better in our existing campaign, and make sure we're thoughtful about the future and not just ready, fire, aim, as we like to say.
Is Vendée Globe, is that an option for you now?
In 24, no. That's for sure. In 28, don't know. I don't think the Vendée Globe is a good starter solo race. I think you look at the Vendée Globe, and everybody that competes in it starts on smaller platforms doing smaller races, and then eventually graduates to this Vendée Globe level. In some ways we have a bit of a head start because we already have the IMOCA experience. We have, or we had, I should say, a platform for competing in such a thing. But I never say never, but it's not on the radar at this stage.
How easy would it be to convert one of these ocean race boats to a Vendée Globe mode?
Oh, it's the same. It's absolutely no problem. I mean, a couple things you might do differently in terms of cockpit layout, I guess. But we have sold our boat to someone who is going to use it in the Vendée Globe, and I expect them to be very competitive.
And still with these massive buildings making you actually sail indoors practically for much of the race, you think that is a workable solution also for the Vendée Globe?
To be inside?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's actually more appropriate for the Vendée Globe than it potentially is for an ocean race. If you peel back the onion and you get to the kind of lowest common denominator, these boats were originally designed for one person to sail around the world, and that person, over the course of 70 some odd days, needs to sleep. So if you have a situation where there's someone on a boat who is sleeping, then how the visibility is less of a priority than it would be if you had people up, alert all the time, looking around. It's as the class hopefully becomes a more crude affair. Perhaps we'll see an evolution of the design. But I think certainly our boat, having had experiences in the past, was very much designed around visibility in terms of the window placement. But really what the boats kind of run into is a freeboard issue. So the boats incentivize a low CG, and basically when you're standing up on the cockpit sole, your head is in the Z-axis where your feet might be on a traditional crude ocean racing boat. So the altitude is an issue as well, not just the design and the configuration and the layout. So there's a lot in it. It's a complicated subject, but as the class progresses, they're quite good about adopting, and I think it'll only improve from here.
You mentioned sleep earlier, and did you really get in long hours of sleep, or was it just very short time to sleep?
I think in the ocean race, the crew on average gets more sleep than you would in a single-handed context, for obvious reasons. But not only the boats get pushed harder in a crew configuration, not only because you have more people, but those people are also more recharged than a single-handed sailor might be. on our boat, we did a 4 on 4 off, watch system, which very often gets interrupted. And then certainly once you get to Europe at the end, was basically totally out the window. But I would say that I would sleep on average 3 times a day for somewhere between an hour to 2 hours, something like that. And that gets messed up by, tacking, jibing, wind shifts, sail changes, competitor skids, weather downloads. So, I mean, it's sporadic. But, and then as far as the geometry or the volume down below is concerned, it's tough to find a place, but then also a situation that allows for some sleeping comfort, given kind of the violent nature of the boats. So, it's a tricky one.
Not to speak of going to the toilet must have been very uncomfortable.
Yes, for sure. But I think if you don't eat, you don't go to the bathroom, and if you don't go to the bathroom, you die. So you figure it out. Right. You figure out a way to do it.
But again, you were mostly indoors, but you obviously had to be on deck from time to time. What kind of maneuvers required you to go on deck? Which sail changes? Of course, you didn't do very many sail changes, but sometimes you did. You had a small jib, for instance, or you had some other light sails. You had to be on deck.
Yeah, I think certainly sail changes, reefing. Although we don't like to do it or admit it happens, but repairs. There's definitely time to be outside. I think the number of sail changes that you do in an ocean race or crewed configuration, is far in excess of what you'd probably do by yourself. So there's a lot more on deck, I'd say, in crewed sailing than there is in single-handed sailing, as far as the IMOCA is concerned. Yeah, it's different. Again, part of it's the freeboard, part of it's the kind of violent nature of the boats, part of it's the speeds that they can achieve. But doing maneuvers underway, the threshold for that is a lot lower in the IMOCA. Sometimes you really just have to stop the boat, do the maneuver, get it done as efficiently as possible, and then get going. Whereas in traditional crewed ocean race environments of the past, you do a lot of that as you went underway, and there wasn't as much slowing down involved. So yeah, it's different, but the worlds are meeting in the middle.
Right. Obviously, the management of the ocean race will consult with the sailors with the feedback from this race and perhaps suggestions for improvements. What would be your suggestions if they were to improve anything?
Well, I mean, I think, as I alluded to before, there were a lot of improvements made, in the race format from inception to realization, as the two bodies, like the race organizers and the IMOCA class, got more familiar with each other, and what the demands, I guess, were going to be. I think the course is actually quite good. I think the timeline is quite good. Maybe you could, the Southern Ocean leg was long, very long. So maybe a stop in Australia or New Zealand, something like that, would be good. Maybe one less stop in Europe. But generally speaking, I think they shouldn't change much, because I think momentum is on the up. I think the crew number is good. I think the more it can be, in line with the single-handed IMOCA, the better. I think fitting into the schedule, because the IMOCA has this existing 4-year schedule that is, it's not jam-packed, but it's been what it's been now for, the better part of 20 years. So I think the slot that they've found is good. It's certainly a quick turnaround from the route to rum, but it allows for an around the world race within the class, one crewed and one single-handed every 2 years.
From a spectator's point of view, it was clear that the IMOCAs are not really well suited for the import races. What is your opinion on that? Could they change it, for instance, to make it a 6-hour race, a little more distant, so that?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky. You know, a lot of it revolves around the 1 hour time slot for TV. Yes, a coastal race would be better. Some sort of time trial with less how do we say, maneuvers or interactions amongst the boats, you know, could be better. You know, certainly we're offshore sailors, so we just want to fire the gun and get offshore as soon as possible. But we also understand, you know, the practicalities of running an event and providing return. So, you know, that is an area that could be improved and should be looked at. The answer is not glaringly obvious, you know, at this stage, but if everybody in the community prioritized a change there, I'm sure we could come up with something a little better.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you had this accident just after the start on the last leg, and it seemed, again, from a spectator's point of view, that it was a completely unnecessary accident, that if the outlook had been better from the other boat, this would have been avoided. You know, could you put that to the fact that they were all indoors at the time and didn't really look, or how could that happen?
Yeah, no, I think you know, visibility played a big part in that, for sure. But you know, I think there's also a situational awareness aspect. You know, with 5 boats on the course, a ley line coming up, it was probably avoidable. But would the situation have happened if everybody on the boat was in a position where they could see more and more and more? No, probably not. So it's a tricky one. Is it the format? Is it the platform? Is it you know, a lack of understanding and prioritization of, you know, kind of where everybody is? So I'm not quite sure.
No, it was unfortunate, but I think it was the right decision from the race committee and the judges to give you average points, for sure. It was not something that you could have done different, and it would have ruined the race for you if you hadn't been given these average points, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the way anybody wanted to see, you know, anything go down, or you know, nobody wanted to see anything like that in the race or as part of the race. But you know, we were winning going into the situation. You know, the ability to compete for the title on the water was basically stripped from us. You know, the language in the rules is through no fault of our own. You know, I genuinely believe that to be the case. You know, when I got off the water after the incident, you know, the first thing I told the sponsor was I promise you that there was nothing else that I could have done, and if I felt differently about it, I probably would have called and apologized. So yeah, I mean, we were winning before it happened. I'm glad we were winning after it happened. You know, certainly not the way that anybody wanted to see it go down. It put us in a situation where all we had to do was finish the leg, you know, given the results of the other boats, to kind of take home the prize. So, you know, whether or not any of that matters, I mean, do judges and juries exist in a vacuum? You know, all those questions go through your head when you're sailing to Genoa over the course of 12 days, wondering what your competitive fate's going to be. But yeah, you know, I don't think it taints, you know, the result in any way. You know, in some ways, you know, average points are great. We're very appreciative, as long as the overall was right. But I mean, we were on a bit of a tear and wanted to win the last leg. You know, that we didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I mean, it is what it is. I think it landed in a good spot.
It was a pretty close race for the first 3 legs, but you were behind, and then after after Brazil, you sort of took off and won the rest of the legs. Did you improve, or did the other boats lose some momentum, or how do you look at that?
I mean, there's a lot in that question, for sure. It is a marathon. It's a battle of attrition. We'd been through it. I think, toward the end of the race, our familiarization with the race and the property and what it takes and the logistics associated with it, all of that, I think, became more and more important over time, for sure. I think when you look at the beginning of the race, we actually sailed better than our results might indicate. We had a very strong leg 2 into Cape Town and ended up with a bad result. And that happens sometimes. There were things we could have done better at the end to make that not the case. And it is what it is. But I think given our platform, we were always going to struggle relative to the other boats in the South because of their newer designs, and they were able to incorporate learnings from the previous Vendée Globe into the designs of their boat. We were simply put supposed to be the newest boat in the race, and actually ended up being the second oldest boat in the race. And the advantage of that should have been that we were on the water longer and had a more reliable platform, but that ended up not being the case. And maybe that wasn't the case because we didn't do enough racing prior to the start of the race. And, until you're pushing against other boats, you don't really know where the limits are. So we could have done that probably a little bit better. But, we always felt like the boat was strong. It was fast, in a non-Southern Ocean environment. So leaving Brazil, we had confidence in the platform. We made some crew changes, get some fresh blood on board, some fresh perspective. So I mean, there's a lot that went into it. I think the whole entire team felt the sense of urgency. If we didn't turn it around then and there, it was unlikely to end the way that we wanted it to end. So every single person from top to bottom, within the organization, I think really asked themselves personally, what do I need to do to step up my game to focus more on winning? And I think we saw that manifest itself in some strong showings right out of the block with the import race in Brazil. I mean, we really tried to never look back from there.
Yeah. Your success obviously will make an impact in American interest, and perhaps you will have a lot of young people wanting to crew for you next time around, so that you will have the completely American crew. Good navigators you can find in the States, I'm sure, and good sailors we know there are many of, and so I suppose that it will be possible to have a straight American team.
It's certainly possible, for sure. And I think with a long lead up time, I think there's the ability to train. What we really need is the interest and the desire, and to increase the applicant pool, really, to get enough qualified folks. I think the future of this race for me really depends on. I think there'll be plenty of entries in the next race, but I think if the race wants to be truly international, the world can't revolve around this small northwest corner of France, so like, can a team base out of Spain, can a team base out of the United States, can a team base out of Australia, or anywhere else in the globe, and get the competitive reps required to be competitive? Is the schedule of the IMOCA ever going to leave France? Will there ever be a race that starts and ends somewhere else? I don't have the answers, but certainly it would make the class, IMOCA, the I is for international. It would make it more international in nature. So these are big questions, because when you spread out around the world, it becomes more expensive. You're trying to fit into a schedule that already exists and has been quite successful for a long time. So it's baby steps to get to where you want to go. But hopefully the ocean race is, a big step, and there's more to come.
Now there were 5 boats. What do you think would be the ideal number? Are we talking 10, 12, 15 boats?
I think, yeah, 8 to 12, I think would be pretty good. You know, one of the things about the Vendée Globe is, you know, with so many boats, it's tough to divide the airtime, you know, and some people kind of get a bit drowned out. So I think from a commercial viability, a sponsorship standpoint, maybe 8 to 10 is about right.
No,
You know, that said, the more boats there are, the more seats there are, the more opportunities there are for sailors. So, you know, it gets logistically more difficult at some of these ports. You know, I know Newport, for instance, I don't think has the ability to host 12 boats. So where do they go? What does the race village look like? How does that become compromised? There's a ton of different questions, but, you know, I think 8 to 10 would be a great success.
Right. Now you have sold your boat, and does that mean that you are not going to sail for a while, or are you asked to be a skipper or tactician on other ocean racing boats, or what are your plans?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I mean, we can't sail in a Mocha 60 tomorrow, that's for sure, because we don't have one. But that's not to say that we couldn't acquire another platform down the road, kind of in the interim, or to test out new things or try other events, or who knows. You know, certainly I'm doing some other ocean races between now and the end of the year, but also really trying to take some time to, like I said before, just reflect. And I want the next chapter to be the right chapter and not just what was available at the time, or you know, what have you. So I want the next step to be conscious. And I think for that to be the case, you got to take a step back and breathe and gain some perspective on just kind of where you've come from before you can decide where you're going.
Ocean Race Europe is going to happen in 2025. Would that be interesting for you?
Oh, for sure. The first ocean race was great. You know, I think you know, selfishly think that I have one of the best jobs in the world. So I'd just like to continue doing it. For sure. I mean, I love sailing. I love the platform. I love the competition. You know, I love it all. But you know, I think it's uncertain what the future is going to look like, how you plan around that. It's not all just up to to me. So, you know, there's a number of conversations that need to ensue, but that seems like a great place to be in 2025.
Right. Well, I promised to make this interview in 25 minutes, but there's been so many interesting things to talk about and listen to, so that we've actually extended it to 40 minutes. So I think it's time to say thank you very much and goodbye, and hope we'll see you in Europe for the 2025 and other ocean races after that, or many more ocean races after that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pardon my casual attire, trying to get some time off here.
That's okay. Have a nice day.
Take care.